evening, everyone. As you have heard, I am Roy Biyakpara. It is my distinguished pleasure to have this opportunity to speak with you, both for those of us that are joining online and those of us that are here. So let's get started with this discussion about combating AI-driven disinformation in different industries. We'll start by looking at a clip. I've titled the slide, "What's Real?" And the reason for this is because it's to play on the idea that AI-generated disinformation often feels like we are watching a fabricated movie. It's so real sometimes that you have to really be careful to not get drawn into the world of fake or deep fake videos and discussions. So let's look at this video there. So this is, I'll pause it there. This is the former president of the United States, Joe Biden, talking about magical pistachios. Okay, and as you can see in the ticker there, it says President Biden tells story about magical pistachio. Can you imagine the leader of what is regarded as one of the strongest nations on earth being drawn by magical pistachio? I know there were many talks about his mental state as he was going, he was leaving the White House. But do we believe he made this statement? How many of us believe he made this statement? Is this real? See, yeah, we don't know, because of his state of mind as we saw as he was living. But I'll tell you that this isn't real. Okay, it's made up, and it was done within seconds for free. Okay, with open source. The term artificial intelligence was coined in 1956, and it gained traction in the 1980s due to technological advancements that the Japanese made in that space. And then, of course, there was that well-publicized game between Deep Blue, IBM's Deep Blue, an AI system, where history was made when it defeated Garry Kasparov, the world champion at that time. We've come a long way from there. In terms of defining what artificial intelligence is, Britannica calls it the ability of a digital computer or computer-controlled robot to perform tasks, commonly associated with intelligent beings. So we've got what could be termed robots, machines, doing what we typically would do. But there are competing issues here. We are going to look at speed, we are going to look at scale, we're going to look at volume, we're going to also look at variety of data, all those things that came with big data, okay? So on one side, we have artificial intelligence, and on the other side, human intelligence. Don't forget, by our definition, or as defined by Britannica, it's telling us that things that are typically done by humans, we're looking to see if we can get the robots to do for us. And what are these things? Now, if you look on the slide here, computers are much faster than humans. Speed, humans take considerable amount of time to complete tasks. So there's time efficiency between the two. There's also what is universal. A machine is usually designed for a few skills. Typically, you would tell them to make coffee for you, if you're lucky, or tell them to write code for you nowadays, okay? So there is that aspect. Humans learn how to manage a vast variety of skills during their lifetime. In fact, we say we learn throughout our life, okay? And then multitasking, the time needed to teach a system multiple responsibilities is quite high. Humans can work on multiple tasks, typically. Decision-making, even the most advanced robots can't compete in terms of mobility with a 6-year-old. And then, of course, on the other side, humans can make decisions based on past experiences. So you see, this is where we are coming to. And of course, computers are digital and our brains are analog typically. We touch, we feel, we sneeze, we talk. That's what we're trying to combine. We want to see if we can get these machines to make decisions, if we can get them to multitask, if we can get them to do things quicker than we would. Okay, so accuracy, enhancement, analysis, and if you're a businessman, return on investment. Yeah, it's gone beyond just automation. We're trying to combine what is artificial with what is human. Okay. But there are different types of AI. Artificial intelligence, of course, is AI, and it's based on capabilities. There are many others, but we'll only touch on these three tonight. There is artificial narrow intelligence, which is what most of what we know to be AI today is. Yeah, that's what we have achieved the most to date. We also have artificial general intelligence. So when you hear AI, there is ANI, there's AGI, and there is coming very quickly ASI. AGI is, of course, artificial general intelligence. It is known also as human level AI. So if artificial narrow intelligence is what we give to specific skills, so if you wanted artificial intelligence to write code for you, just that, a single skill, that will be narrow intelligence, but general skill will be multi-capabilities. Okay, what do you then think super intelligence is? Artificial super intelligence, what do you think that would be? Can anyone help with that?
Human intelligence?
Surpassing human intelligence greatly and at scale as well, with great speed, absolutely, and that can learn from past experiences. Don't forget, we just looked at a slide here where we said one of the things that artificial intelligence doesn't really have or didn't have before is making decisions based on past experiences. Multitasking is happening already, but we want the artificial intelligence to learn and to make decisions. It's happening already where there's what we call deep thinking with some of the generative AIs we've got here. They would know what you've done before, what questions you've asked before, and make decisions based on what has gone before. Okay, so we're going into the sphere of artificial super intelligence. But it hasn't always been this good. Yeah. In the 60s, we had the first chatbot, Eliza. It was developed by Joseph Weizenbaum, laying the foundation for the AI groundwork. So we owe a lot to that time. In the 80s, we got rule-based AI and expert systems that were regarded as non-generative. And then, of course, LSTM, the long short-term memory, that introduced essential networks for sequence tasks. So it did tasks in order. You would key in algorithms and it would do those tasks. Of course, there was nothing physical. We were trying to integrate printing stuff and outputs to those at that time. Then in the 2000s, early 2000s to mid 2000s, we had deep learning. Jeffrey Hinton then, he reintroduced and also invigorated the discussions around deep learning with vast data. And if you remember, between that time and 2014, we started to hear things like big data, which brought the discussions around volume, variety, structured and unstructured data, and velocity, speed. Yeah, corporations were all about big data. And of course, social media also came around that time. Processing was not only done in the corporate sense, but even end users were doing some of the processing as well. So there was a lot of data being consumed. And so all through there, Google introduced autocomplete, the autocomplete feature where it'll start to guess based on what you've done before, searches you've done before, and also cookies, tracking cookies would know what you had searched for, your browsing habits, and then of course from there would bring out suggestions for you in terms of output and results. So we got to 2014, and Ian Goodfellow revolutionized content generation methods with GANs, with the generative adversarial networks. Now, why do we call them generative adversarial networks? Within the system, the concept, we have a generator and a discriminator. And that's what will lead us to our discussion today. One would generate the data and another would distinguish it from what is real and what is fake. So there was that competing sequence, generating and distinguishing. Yeah, this is real. And then of course a tracker to say, right, or a trace, if you like, an audit trail to know what had been generated by that system. Okay, so we'll touch on that when we get to combating this AI disinformation, where we're heading to. And then, of course, between 2020 and 2024, we saw the advent of GPT-3 and GPT-4, where we now have multimodal processing capabilities. If you remember, just now we talked about AI doing just single task or having just singular skills. And now we have multimodal processing capabilities. And just last week, GPT 4.5 was released. Yeah, so as we speak, the speed of release and features, speed, and of course, DALL-E also, I shouldn't forget to mention that DALL-E for generating images from text prompts came up in 2021 as well. Now you can write whole books with AI. You can, we've just seen how a video can be created, how voice can be changed and cloned even. It's the same voice, but saying something different from what they would have done. That video we saw at the start was actually a Christmas video where he was sending out a Christmas message, and it was changed to show something else. See, we saw him saying something different completely. So now we are going to look at deep fake. AI-generated fake news, like I said, deep fakes, manipulated content that would pose risks to not just businesses, but governments and society at large. We want to understand the risks and then see what anyone is doing about it. But more than what anyone could be doing about it, what will you do about it? Okay, I say that because for a while, I've had to help family. They send me videos, and the reason why they send me videos to know whether or not they're true is because I've pushed back so many times. You know, when you get WhatsApp messages and they're sending you videos, say, hey, this is happening and that is happening, I'm like, that's fake. Yeah, and so they've given me a label. Where I come from, they call me ITK. Does anybody know what ITK is here? I too know. In England here, they call it Mr. Know-It-All. Yeah, trust me, it affects relationships. But of course, we have to stand for our values and what we know. The rise of social media platforms began pre-2010. Facebook, I don't remember the timeline for Twitter, but of course, social media started around that and all started to really explode. And so misinformation campaigns also gained traction around the 2012 era. Use of automated bots for spreading content around 2014. We, of course, not that there wasn't fake news before 2016, but with someone as powerful as Donald Trump saying fake news, it's stuck in our heads starting from 2016. Yeah, and of course, deepfakes, the emergence of deepfake technology started to create concerns around the 2018 time. It really was bad during the 2020, and the story I just mentioned now, one of the topics that created that was the pandemic misinformation, where, of course, even sometimes you see people in suits in their labs and things like that, either for or against vaccines, either for or against COVID-19. And who am I to say, don't take vaccines or take vaccines when I don't have a degree in medicine? So you see, everybody became an expert, either for or against that. So it'll lead into the conversation we're having tonight. 2021, AI tools were developed to create believable disinformation and then from 2023 regulatory measures. It's a good thing. If you recall, during the 2018, around 2018, May 2018, when GDPR came about, EU led in that. Others have tried to do the same. Some have succeeded as well. Some others not so much. Has anybody heard of Max Schrems? Yeah, took Facebook to court twice and won, and of course invalidated the privacy shield. The EU has done so well in terms of regulation, and they're doing the same as well right now with AI. The US has also come up with that, the United Nations, the OECD. So you will see that these are some of the things that we really need: regulation and governance around, and oversight as well around artificial intelligence. So how is AI used to generate this information? We have so many ways to do that, but one of those is the generative AI and large language models, where we have AI-powered chatbots and text generators. Like I said, you can create articles, you can create phishing emails, you can manipulate narratives, you can create brands. You can have books, even you can write books. But our focus today is where information is changed to create something different. It creates panic. It can create so much more than panic even. Yeah. Deepfake technology, secondly, AI-generated audio and video that impersonates real people, leading to fraud, political misinformation, and of course, sometimes even reputational harm. We also have AI-enhanced bots and social media manipulation. For those of us who are on social media, I am, not just LinkedIn, so I must confess on that. Some of the people you engage with are not real people. They create profiles completely. They send out posts that are scheduled, because you can actually schedule posts to go out from those handles. Yeah, so that's what they call them. They call them handles. They give them a profile. I don't remember the platform now. You can actually decide what profile you want. Tall, 6 foot, even if you're not 6 foot tall, you can create such a profile, create a history, and send out posts from there. And the thing with social media is that depending on what platform you're on, it can really go viral. When you hear about viral videos, viral discussions, and things like topics, it's because with social media, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, it can really go really, really quick. One like and one retweet. Now, just look at all these real world case studies of disinformation. But there's one headline that is not real. Can we guess which one it is?
It has to be Arsenal.
It has to be Arsenal. Why Arsenal? Yeah. Arsenal haven't won the league. But you see, you can break your own news. All I did was download an image, created a headline, and then did a ticker with a tag.
Wishful thinking.
Sorry?
I said wishful thinking.
Well, it's fake news. That's what I'm talking about. Is disinformation. So that's the thing about the topic. Yeah. This, I think, happened. Willy Wonka. It was called a place where chocolate drips come real. They created a kind of like an event to say you could win a dream of a lifetime, indulge in a chocolate fantasy in Glasgow a few years ago. I think it was 2022 or so, if I remember this correctly. But you see, the organizer of that event has done this before. It wasn't real, but it generated all the buzz that he wanted it to. He got all the tickets in as he wanted it to. The difference being, this time, different from what he had done previously, those that attended didn't keep quiet about it. They were furious because, I mean, this is Willy Wonka. For those who have a history or who have a liking to the whole story and what it represents, they didn't like that they were swindled, basically. Yeah. So they took him to task, and he had to refund. And of course, when you refund, only those who hear about the refund will make the refund. So my guess is that he still got away with a few quids from there. Yeah. So that is how news can spread as well. In the top left, we see artificial intelligence-based software helped steal $243,000 from UK-based energy firm. Now, that one was a very interesting case. There was AI was used to rob a UK energy firm of that amount, and the CEO of the energy firm was on the phone with the firm's Germany parent company. What they did was they created a fake meeting, used the voice of the CEO, created a video of him in a meeting as well, and tried to set up an account to let this happen. Now, luckily for the firm, they stopped this before it became. But the thing is because the CEO came up and was like, "Oh no, I'm not in that. I wasn't in that meeting, and I can't be in two places at the same time." But you see, nobody else would have noticed that. It would have convinced the firm, and they've gone away with the money. So that's one case there. And of course, we talked about the disinformation campaign in 2016. This one was about Hillary Clinton's health, and of course, how it spread as well. Okay. Now we're going to look at industry-specific impact of AI-generated disinformation. And this is what we're talking about tonight, the impact of AI-generated disinformation in different industry sectors. Of course, depending on how each industry has got what is inherent to it in terms of its operations, in terms of the manner in which they conduct their businesses and stuff like that. So here we start with the financial market activities. Maybe banking. They've got back office, post-trade processing. They've got middle office, say risk management. And I want to focus on risk management, where we have KYC checks. KYC checks means know your customer checks. A lot of organizations in the financial sector do that thing, where they want to know who they are interacting with, who they're having that relationship with. You want to create an account, we need to know your customer. And it comes from regulation. You need to know who you're letting have access to accounts, to money sometimes, to do transactions. Yeah, so those are KYC checks. AI can be used to do all of those. Compliance as well. Control functions, AML, anti-money laundering, and then of course, anti-fraud. The same as well for the front office. You have robo-advisors, you have chatbots, biometrics, authentication. Now, all of these things can be affected in the same way you want to use them to do your operations. They can also be used to manipulate and spread disinformation. One key example you can see here is the KYC checks. If artificial intelligence is used to create a profile, can be used to create a profile, it can be used to pass KYC checks as well. If you can create, so 2 weeks ago or so, there was the issue of driver's licenses that were created with artificial intelligence, with the barcode at the back, and of course not in the UK. It'll be hard to do that in the UK. But what I'm saying is, if you allow documents like driver's licenses from other countries, you use them for the KYC checks, then of course it can also be a problem. Okay, so these are some of the implications in different industries. And of course, this as well, in terms of the disinformation now, in this case, a UK study revealed that over 60% of individuals exposed to AI-generated fake news about bank instability were inclined to withdraw their funds. Now, that, of course, can cause a shake in the, not just the bank itself, but in the industry, depending on the number of people that do that, when they withdraw their funds at the same time. We've already seen how deepfake can produce videos, but in this case, they can also create videos of prominent figures that will be endorsing stocks and mimicking major brands. As a matter of fact, Deloitte projects that financial sector fraud losses could escalate to 40 billion by 2027 due to AI-driven scams. What did we say when we started? About the speed, about volume, about the variety of the kind of data they could use. Okay. Further, A UK study also indicated that £10 spent on social media ads containing AI-generated fake content could lead to the movement of up to £1 million in deposits. Yeah, so that is the impact that this can have in the financial industry. What about in supply chain? Well, false information in the different aspects of the chain. As an example, false information about product shortages can disrupt global supply chains. We can even start from small. One store, one superstore with fake information can have an effect along the supply chain, from logistics to warehouses, to the store shelves, to the counter, and of course, to the customers. It can also affect demand forecasting. Of course, for those who have worked in those industries, they know what that can mean. Generative AI can evaluate historical sales data and factors such as economic conditions, weather, seasonality, and that filter down and cascade down to the end user. What about route optimization? That's one I really like. Generative AI can assist in route and fleet optimization. That's on the good side. But on the flip side, it can also cause disruption. And of course, with route, you have what they call shortest path to delivery, but it can also affect that and give a different route and then cause delays. That is on the small side. It can also have even bigger impact than that. So you see that the rapid spread of false information can cause significant disruptions within supply chains. It can be amplified, leading to larger supply chain disruptions, especially when they're exogenous and intentional. Okay, when they're intentional, they can really have the kind of impact that the perpetrators wanted to have. Healthcare is another fascinating one. We looked a little about what can happen in the healthcare and pharmaceutical industry when we talked about COVID-19. Well, you see, 36% of frequent social media users held at least one false belief about COVID-19, according to the News Literacy Project. Remember, if you recall, I said I don't have the expertise to talk on either COVID or any other health-related topic, but we go to portals where these experts release articles and say stuff. Now, in the past, you had to have when we talked about articles and things like that, you talk about a publishing house, you talk about a reviewer, you talk about an editor. The editor might be more than one as well. They would need to review things before they are published. But nowadays, things can be generated and published in different portals. If I can fake a video, I can also fake an email. Of course, those of us in cybersecurity already know that. What will stop anyone from generating an article and saying, I am Dr. BCS, and posting it on this portal? Yeah, so that is a risk. The disinformation about treatments, about vaccines, and medical research. But of course, that is where, that's on the extreme. We've seen where two experts have different opinions about reality, about facts. Fact is now not fact, because who is saying what? If someone is saying what you want to hear, confirmation bias. One doctor is saying something about vaccines, another doctor with his lab coat is saying something different about vaccines as well. So there's that as well. An incident happened where in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, AI-generated falsehoods eroded trust in health authorities, complicating efforts to control the virus spread. It did the same thing with Ebola. And that's what I'm saying. If two doctors are saying two different things, which side would you select? Yeah, so there's that. The feds blew $267 million fighting misinformation under Biden, and Trump vowed to ban censorship cartel. Looking at social media, I don't know if any of you remember, just some weeks ago, I think it was in January, Mark Zuckerberg said something about fact-checking. Twitter has got its fact-checking community notes. Facebook used to have something similar, but Mark Zuckerberg said something about, what did he say? He was going to turn it off, wasn't it?
So they were hiring external fact checker companies, and they are not hiring them anymore, but they will have something similar to what Twitter has.
Community notes.
Community notes, which is by the users, so it's not by
By the users,
company.
not by experts anymore. Okay, yeah, I think it's fine. I thought it was just going to turn it off completely. Community notes, like our friend told us here, is what is happening in Twitter, where people come together and we vote for what is true and what's not. Yeah, so it's a game of numbers. It's better than nothing. So Facebook is turning off its fact checking, where they had experts, who were hiring experts to do fact checking, but now they will rely on users. So power to the people. Okay. During the 2024 elections, Alan Turing, the Alan Turing Institute identified 27 viral AI-generated pieces across the UK. We've already seen how that can affect elections. Yep, and also wartime. There was a video where we know there's been this conflict between Ukraine and Russia, where Zelensky came out and surrendered to Putin. Now, of course, he had to come out to debunk that. But what I'm trying to say is, propaganda always goes with conflicts, unfortunately. But he had to come out to say, "Oh no, I didn't say that. I didn't do that." Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Elections in Slovakia. The candidate here, this candidate came out to say, "You know what? I rigged the election." And if that can be used as evidence against him, of course, he would come out to debunk it. But sometimes those who were there to hear him say that he had rigged the election will not be there to hear him say, "I didn't do that." Yeah, and the election is gone. The thing is, there was no scientific way to know whether or not this had an effect on the election, but it did happen. Corporate brands as well. The World Economic Forum ranked AI-generated misinformation and disinformation as the second most likely risk to cause a global crisis. Now, how would we identify AI-generated information? This is to us now. Emotional triggers. It always comes with emotions. What we want to hear, what we want to see, what we want to do. We want to vote for this person, we don't want to vote for that. They target emotionally in our emotions. Language patterns, not so strong, but look for unusual phrases or overuse of jargon in the text. Sources, source credibility. Yeah, we said governments would help with regulations. Corporate entities would also do that with standards, implementing standards and things like that. But also we have our own responsibilities too. Sometimes it's oversimplistic. I've just talked about confirmation bias, visual mismatches, the sound not going with the movement of the mouth, eye movement as well. You can tell that I'm here and I'm talking to you, but for those who are not there, it becomes harder to tell whether or not something is real. So what can we do? From a corporate perspective, AI-powered detection. If we can use it for bad, we can use it for good. There are fact-checking tools. There's deepware.ai. It's a platform where you can upload, you can either put a URL and to tell you whether or not the video is real, or you upload the video and it tells you whether or not it's getting better. It's not perfect because there have been some where it gives a different analysis of whether or not the video is fake. Yeah, but it's getting better. We've talked about regulatory and policy measures. We can also educate users. Yep, each one teach one until we get there. Technology-enabled content authentication. We have what we call strong authentication as well. We also have AI-powered brand monitoring systems, which we can use. And of course, regulation. There's also advancement in AI-driven forensics. This is coming up in the future, self-learning AI models for disinformation detection and AI-enhanced cybersecurity as well. So many brands are taking up all of that. So there's hope in the horizon. Like I mentioned, the UN has taken up the mantle in regulation. The EU is doing the same, the US as well. And a few countries, I've heard about Chile and Korea doing that to the OECD. And of course, ISO 42001 these are some ways to oversee the use and disabuse of AI. Yes, so in conclusion, AI-generated disinformation is a growing threat. Organizations must adopt detection tools, regulatory measures, and authentication strategies. There must be collaboration across industries, governments, and AI researchers as well. And then for each one of us, we must be very alert to these things and always test everything you see. Don't believe just about anything, especially if it's too good to be true. It's possibly not true. So thank you. And I hand over to you.
Well, I think you'd name it actually because
yeah, there might be a few questions.
There might be a few questions coming in. Are there any questions?
Is there someone who will moderate? Because I think I saw a few questions online.
Right. Okay. Let's not. You see that now?
Yes, from there. Yeah, someone said North or South Korea. Yes, Rak, if I got your name correctly, it's actually South Korea, of course. I have to get my North and South correct. It is South Korea, Rak. Thank you. Any questions from anyone here? Yes, please tell us your name and then ask the question.
Hi, thank you. That was really interesting. So my name's Scott. I'm just wondering if you have any insight into the sort of speed of development of detection tools versus the speed of improvement of some of the technologies that are used to create misinformation and deepfakes.
Okay. Scott wants to know if I have any information about the speed of the development of detection tools related to the speed of the tools used in generating this. Now, it's not a scientific answer I'll give you. It's my opinion based on what I see. Thankfully, the detection tools, the development is at par with the, at this stage, it's at par. Of course, on the side of the generators, we've got a lot of open source tools. And that's different from the detection tools. They are commercial, unfortunately. So where I can go online and do what I want to do with open source tools to create fake news, to detect them and stuff, there are not a lot of open source tools. That's just the difference.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. It's Henry on here. I just want, would I call it an opinion from yourself on what the future of information risk managers or risk management would be in the light of stuff like that compared to now? How do you see, what are the challenges of the future for information risk professionals?
That's a very good question. But I see opportunities opening up. And if you recall, I mentioned ISO 42001. That is actually a risk management framework for AI. And a lot of companies are adopting it without certification at this time. But that is an area where they need risk managers to not only help them scale through, to help them understand what the challenges are, and of course, what the requirements are to tackle this. So I see a lot of opening for risk managers in that regard. Yes.
I've got it's a reflection really. My name's Peter Madigan, I work for CGI. I use ChatGPT quite a lot. The public one for personal things, and we have an enterprise license.
Okay.
And I have to say, it's really quite impressive, some of the stuff that's coming out.
Yes.
Its ability to deduce things and reason in the new models. But if you look at the way the public might be using it,
yes.
So you go to the free model, which is a lower level model. They're probably going to be using it some ways in which I started to use it, which was effectively as a more effective search engine. So you get more information, you get a bit more context back. One of the things that interests me is whether you think that those large language models that OpenAI are using, the ChatGPT, etc., are themselves capable of distinguishing out there in the World Wide Web between fake and and genuine information that might be provided, because they are searching sources
They are.
in the World Wide Web.
Based on what you just said and my use of it, I'll say yes, because they do refer you as well. To prepare this slide, I used AI. 30% of this presentation is with AI, and I asked for sources. I also asked it to give me fake sources, and it did that. So it has that ability to say, yes, this is real, and that's not real, because it also has a learning as well, as you know.
And is that the versions of the free version, for instance?
Oh,
right
no,
now?
not the free version.
Not the free version.
Not the free version.
So that's going to be a smaller group of users
sense.
doing that, because you've got to pay $60 a month if you want the advanced.
You're right. Yes, you're right.
If I may add to that,
Yes.
Not really a question, but I would fundamentally disagree with this ability. Wikimedia Foundation recently did a couple experiments. For example, the person who's responsible for
Development.
AI and this kind of stuff. He's a Croatian person who's born and raised in Germany, and if you ask where he was born in German, it will tell that he was born in Germany. But if you ask that where he was born in Croatia, it will say that in Croatia, and it will cite the wrong sources. So it will give you the wrong sources. Another example is if you, for example, ask who received the Nobel Prize and the Turing Award together. Obviously, there are two people. Most recently is Geoffrey Hinton. The model, even though it will cite sources knowing that Geoffrey Hinton got the Nobel Prize, it will say that it has no, so only one person got, and obviously there are two. So
Is that the free version or the paid version?
the premium one as well.
The premium one as well?
Yeah, it has a one.
Okay. Yes.
I've only just joined because I was in another meeting. But on that topic, sounds to me like the prompt had a built-in assumption,
Yes.
and the AI picks up on that. So if you said where in Croatia was somebody born, it will invent the answer for that.
It wasn't where in Croatia, it was in Croatian. So in
The language Croatian.
So it picked up the prompt from the language. Yes. So the language used contained an assumption that the answer would be to do with Croatian.
Croatia.
I mean, it's just like, we have a lawyer who's a member of the PCS here. He put a piece of 18th century English prose into an AI, into a large language model, and said, find me the grammatical errors. So it did, but there weren't any. Because his question didn't say, find if there are any grammatical errors.
Yes.
It just said, find me the grammatical.
grammatical.
So it's, oh, that means there must be some, so I'll find some. So it invents, and this is and I suppose that's a form of disinformation.
It is 100%.
and that's what I was saying.
So
in this regard, it's not really, using the sources adequately.
Yeah.
It's just using the sources just to feed its own.
Well,
It depends on the prompt, I guess.
this is called prompt engineering. So first of all, you should be careful how you ask the question, and the tail of the question should say, please cite your sources.
It cites the wrong fact. It lies and it cites the sources.
Yeah.
Yes,
You see, it's back to the GIGO days. But yeah, if your prompt isn't intelligent enough, then of course it can bring out outputs that are not so.
And you check it afterwards.
You do. Yeah. So that's the education bit. Yeah. And of course, it keeps learning. We keep learning, and it will keep getting better.
Well, it's like humans, really, isn't it? Some people will tell you what they think you want to hear.
100%, 100%.
Precisely.
So that's all part of what we're saying here. We have to be careful. Yes, please.
Okay, my concern again.
Sorry, can you your name? And then-
Christy.
Okay, Christy.
Again, my concern again, I think was brought to my attention again when I went to the conference this past week. The biases such as it's learning our bad habits, and unfortunately, asking ChatGPT a question, creating a slide, etc. That's one thing. But when it comes to making life decisions such as you will get a mortgage, who will turn down for insurance, who will turn down for a job, because people applying for work and it's saying, no, you're not
No, you're not
qualified.
qualified.
And those are things that affect us on a daily basis. I think that is my own first concern rather than other things.
I like that. I like that. But you see, that's where I talk about the governance, the oversight and stuff, and regulation. Just like we have for GDPR. It'll be terrible, if I may say so, if we do not align the regulations as well. So GDPR or privacy on one side, and then AI. And then with GDPR, there's that ability to exercise your rights, to say, right, this decision doesn't suit me or is quite unfair, and I'd like to have a second look on that. I think it applies in this.
It does, absolutely, yes. You can run a black box, you can run a black box for the decision making, but if the decision goes against the customer is entitled to a second opinion. Expressed in words of one syllable.
100%.
Not, you know, well, here's the algorithm, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's you shouldn't let AI near any decisions.
Unfortunately, it is happening today. I mean, talking about people applying for work. The computer said no, and they can't challenge those decisions. Very few challenge those decisions.
Yeah,
Because-
but I don't think it happens.
You don't think it happens?
No.
Why do you say that?
I don't think that a recruiter will run AI over somebody's application and let the computer answer.
If they value people, they shouldn't.
Selection.
Yeah, I believe if they
Yes,
can.
but in the
I mean-
selection, it's good because then you can filter out good applications or not. And if somebody doesn't get the job, well, most people don't get all the jobs that they apply for.
How many
So I
people?
don't think it really matters.
But if it's flawed in the first place,
Yeah.
if it's flawed, then obviously it's not picking the right candidate.
It doesn't have.
But they've been doing this for about 2 decades.
It hasn't changed so much.
They pass the CV through software for to identify keywords.
Yeah.
They've done that for at least 2 decades.
So you can design your CVs,
You
to
design,
respond
you
accordingly.
happy your CV
Yeah.
with the
no
keywords
matter
that
how
you know
good
they're
you
going to be looking
are.
for.
If you do that,
Yeah,
you
that's
will.
one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to do.
But if
Yeah.
a company is training its data based on who they hired in the past,
Yes.
and if it tended to be, and this is an example repeated, of a particular colored type of personality or ethnic group. Well, if you're using that historical data and then you're checking new CVs against that data, then anyone who's
Yeah.
not of that color or ethnic
Well,
group.
that's the people like us model.
Yes, but I don't
Yeah.
think companies do
I
that.
think in Spain,
Yes, they have.
it's a
They do.
requirement that you put your date of
Which
birth on
companies is
CV.
going to take all that?
In Spain, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you can just read a couple of CVs and. choose
So,
what they expect.
That's prejudicial.
They've done one that's-
Which company? Which company?
So what's interesting in some of the more advanced ChatGPT models
But they're studies.
is that
Same with more.
it actually now gives you, I asked it quite a complex question today, and it explains its reasoning. So you had this aspect of explaining. So on
Yeah.
to that point, it comes out and it says, what I heard you say was this. What I'm inferring from that is X, Y, and Z.
And do you know why that happened? Because it got competition. DeepSeek came out. Yeah, DeepSeek with reasoning. And so ChatGPT had to respond in like as well.
Yeah, but it's really useful because
It's absolutely.
you're not going to get, I didn't get the right answer that I wanted the first time round, and when you
You-
want to go further, but
yeah.
actually you can then look at the reasoning and say, okay, I've got
You're
that
missing this
wrong,
point.
I need to modify it.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, because I'm not a practitioner, but I've heard that you can ask the same question twice over and get a different answer.
Yeah, well, that's,
Which is, you can have to do that with humans as well. I mean,
Yes, Scott.
Just on that topic, have you seen any, is there a clear trend towards explainable AI? Because as I understand it, there are two different types, right? You can have explainable or you can have non-explainable. And I think the explainable one, from what I gather, is generally slower, costs more to train or costs more to operate. I don't know if you can.
it's definitely slower.
It's definitely slower. It's definitely slower. But when we say slower, it's a minute or so. Yeah.
You don't have to go away and make a cup of coffee.
No, you don't have to. Yeah, but I mean, I prefer to think that just give me, based on my uses of it, when it does do that thinking, it's much better.
Is it more expensive?
It is.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, these
The more you,
are enterprise licenses.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you're paying for it to think.
Are they also the ones that update as they go along? Because AI up to now has been a static thing, you know, that if you ask it a question about something that happened after its ingestion of data, it won't know about it, therefore it can't answer the question.
Oh, no.
But now some are
Self-learning, it's much better now. It depends on the version you have.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, 4.5 was just released, and it's doing what you're asking.
Yeah, there are also, I mean, we have an enterprise license, which means the implementation, the input that's being used, the data that's being provided, which is often confidential,
Yeah.
does not go
It
outside
doesn't go outside.
the boundary of the data set that's being used by the company.
Mm.
So it doesn't get into the public.
That has always been a problem, so now it's been handled. Yeah, but of course, Copilot has got that, where it takes out everything private that you mark as private, and it's ChatGPT now has that element to it. So